Take the vow to do no harm. Cultivate the discipline of do no harm. The mystery of resonance with light is the commitment to do no harm. The artistic, creative expression of the soul does no harm. In the building of the Antakarana, in the awakening of consciousness, the embodiment of gratitude takes precedence over the habit to harm self or other. In taking the vow of do no harm, mind, body, spirit, emotions take alignment with the evolutionary force of care for self and other. We steward air, earth, fire, water, as they are divine expressions of our very existence. East, west, north, south manifest as a medicine wheel upon which we regulate our experience in the human form, as we bless our bountiful opportunities. As our higher self is given control over our choices, we liberate consciousness from the confines of limiting ego. We liberate spiritual essence to bear a healthy mind and a healthy heart. A healthy mind and heart do no harm. As we do no harm, we spontaneously manifest compassion, love, trust, graciousness, and the many virtues of the soul. Life, as thought and experience, becomes more beautiful. This beauty manifests as a higher octave on our musical scale of personality expression. We are composing our music, changing our musical note. The art of do no harm is a symphony of goodness, a song of love to humanity, to the world, to the universe, to the absolute. The 4 ways to teach humanity, to love humanity, to steward humanity, is through the science, art, philosophy, and mystery of do no harm. As wisdom and love unfold moment by moment, our vow of do no harm is ever guiding the evolution of light. Therefore, take the vow to do no harm. Cultivate the discipline of do no harm. Do no harm.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Bring yourselves up all on video. Let's start like that so I can see your beautiful faces. I am just going to in the speaker. Hi. It says the host is blocking the video. Okay. Don't want to do that. There we go. I think. Let's try that. Yes, that must have worked. Hello, welcome, Esther, Janelle, Yvonne, Tara, Bhavia, Debbie, Jesus, Michelle, welcome. Oh, good. Welcome, welcome. Tried to start my video. Okay, there we go. Good. Hi. Tell me where you're coming in from. Some of you I know. Some of you have been with me these last few months for each category. Seattle. Hey, Debbie. And tonight we are touching into the character category in this very last day of April, almost May. Welcome. That's okay, Jesus. He says he can't be on video. He's at work, but he's going to listen. Good. Yvonne is coming in from Canada, from Calgary. Beautiful. We are diving into character, and the title of this evening's presentation is Indulgent Integrity, Divine Indifference. So these are character traits that I've been working with my student clients over many decades and taking a deep dive into these concepts and these vibrations, really, these energetic frequencies. And we're going to dive into what all of that is. And what's the best way? Meander our way through an assessment, if you will, through the evening, and an assessment where we touch in with on the level of soul rather than the level of personality. So I spoke a little bit about personality and the ego that's associated with personality last month. But I'll go through just a brief description for our needs tonight of each of those aspects, and then we'll be moving right into it. So we have another from Canada, from Nova Scotia. Welcome, Esther. So the personality we have is made up of our physical body, our emotional body, our energetic body, and our mental body. Of course, all of those four factors, those four bodies influenced by environment and family and culture and time and generation and influences and experiences and memory, past, present, and also including anxiety, perhaps, or fear, or contentment, presence around the future. And this personality that we embody is essential for survival, certainly. It's really beautiful for creating in the life, living in the life, building the life. And yet, it is the one thing that stands in our way between survival mode, or really surviving, and thriving, and being in a thriving, full-on blissful mode. And the personality will get in the way because the personality also has what we call, in my tradition, ego. Ego is used by many different teachers, authors in many different ways, but for our purposes, we're going to talk about ego from those challenging or more negative aspects of the personality that stem from the 7 deadly sins, such as anger, lust, greed, gluttony, pride, envy, laziness, etc. So each of us has these egoic challenges, these egoic patterns and habits and drivers. And they have served us in many good ways over time. They've helped us survive, sometimes to grow, sometimes to build through very challenging and difficult circumstances in the life. And yet they tend to stand in our way in that moment when we're ready to take that bridge from the soul, from the personality to the soul. So these egos tend to master our personality and guide our personality. And then we make choices and decisions based on that egoic pattern or frequency or energy. And when we think about character and how we build character, I mentioned in the introduction that cultures through time, through space, different decades, different generations, different places on the globe create their own construct of what character means and what good or honorable or ethical character is and what non-ethical character is. And it's different culture to culture. And we can see that right now playing out on the world stage. In some cultures, to be a suicide bomber, for instance, is hailed, praised as a martyr. It's lifted up as a high character trait of high integrity and courage and sacrifice for one's beliefs. In other cultures, that is not a positive character trait. So we can see that character and the definition of character is not necessarily standardized around the world, and it's not a standard through time and space. So we can begin to define our character not only based on our family traditions and our culture, our religion, our spirituality, but begin to develop an understanding and a definition of character from our own personal experience, from what our personal experience needs to bring throughout into the world. And if we build a definition of character from our ego, it's going to be informed not only by those parts of our personality that are full of light and goodness and will to good, but it's also going to be developed and defined by those traits in us that are driven by our ego. They may be driven by our pride or our arrogance. They may be driven by impatience. They may be driven by a greediness or a lustiness for power or fame or fancy material items, or on and on and on, fill in the blank. What I'd like to take you through tonight is a journey from looking at our character from a personality and a cultural point of view to looking at character from a soulful point of view that has no connection through time, space, culture, dimension, generation, gender, personality construct. And from the seat of our soul, if you will, from that place of the soul through which we look with our personality out onto the world, we can begin to create a life from a much deeper, much more insightful, much more soulful level. So this is our work tonight, and we're gonna there are two particular concepts around character energy that I want to dive into, and one is indulgent integrity, and the other is divine indifference. So we're going to start with indulgent integrity, and begin by simply defining integrity. So let's hear from you first in the chat, some of your definitions of integrity. What does integrity mean to you? Part of what's important about tonight is that you begin to hear and know and understand your own definitions. I'll be sharing mine, but what I want to draw out of you is your soulful definitions. But let's just start with what you understand integrity to be for yourself right now in this moment. Janelle says, being true to your word. Beautiful. Being aligned with truth, regardless of external circumstances or challenges. Right action aligned with truth. Few more. Most fun when you play along, everyone. So this word truth comes through. Again, truth can be defined very individually. Truth can be defined by your personality. It can also be defined by your soul. Truth can be defined by different religions in different ways at different times in our human history. And truth will likely be defined very differently in the future, in many generations moving forward. Truth has an essence that is perhaps unchangeable, unmutable through time and space. But because our universe is ever expanding, which means it's ever changing, we could ponder the idea that truth itself then is ever expanding and also ever changing. And that's a deeper concept. That's a whole other evening together to dive into truth. I have a chapter on truth in one of my books, actually, but it talks about how truth has this quality of expansion and changing, because this is one of the universal laws by which we must abide, that we are part of in this human third dimensional experience, is that the universe is expanding, therefore we are expanding. Our minds are expanding, our love is expanding, our comprehension and abstract thought is expanding. All of it is expanding. Debbie, love that idea. As the universe expands, so does understanding and knowledge and truth. Beautiful. So truth expanding. Also, any definition that we give to such words as character or integrity or care or tolerance or trust, also expanding as we learn, as we evolve, as we deepen on our own spiritual path, our own intellectual path, our own artistic path. These will be defined more and more, what's the word I want to use? In a fuller, juicier way over time for each of us. In kindergarten, we learned about character. We don't have the same relationship with character that we did in kindergarten. Yeah, we've matured. We're full-bodied as adults. And similarly, on a spiritual path or on an intellectual path, on a life vision path, we're going to likewise mature. And so these definitions will change and expand and mature with us. So whatever comes through for you tonight, allow it to be that which can grow and move and mature with you through time. So these are a few ideas of yours about integrity. All of them correct, and so much more. If we had 50, 100 people sharing, we would all bring a sense of integrity. I want you to work with the definition of integrity that's yours. And what I want to imbue that integrity with tonight is this sense of indulgence, this sense of a full embodiment of integrity. And last month I promised, because we ran out of time, to talk about the path of rights versus the path of responsibility. And so this actually fits really nicely into the theme of character. The path of rights has a direct link to our personality, what our personality feels or believes, or maybe even knows it has a right to. A responsibility I like to link with our soul, that which we've been given that we're responsible for. Our body, our mind, our emotions. We've been given, some of us, talents or gifts. We've been given homes, perhaps, or land, or animals, dogs or cats or horses or birds or plants. We've been given children as responsibility. And on a soulful level, when we're given a responsibility, we can certainly choose it or not choose it. On a personality level, we can choose it or not choose it. When we choose a responsibility on a soulful level, we can fulfill our responsibility to that which we've taken on. On a personality level, we can fulfill it, or we can neglect, or we can deny, or we can sort of fall off the path once we've taken on a responsibility. Have any of you ever had some responsibility, perhaps a plant, we'll use something simple, and you didn't water it, and you didn't give it any fertilizer, or you didn't change the soil annually, and it kind of withered and turned brown and eventually died. And then you're looking at that plant, and it does have a living essence, and we did choose to be responsible for it, and we let it die based on whatever circumstances we allowed that to be true. And so, although this is a maybe a more trite example, haven't we all done this with responsibilities that were truly much more vital to the life of another, whether it's this planet or a child or a spouse or ourselves? Have we made a promise of responsibility to ourselves, perhaps our diet or our health, or our emotional healing, and we fell short in stewarding that responsibility? So on the level of personality, we will take on a responsibility and either not follow through on that responsibility, or we will follow through on that responsibility. When we feel that we have a right to something, that's not always necessarily followed with the responsibility to care for that which we feel we have a right to. In this recent decade or two, it's been named entitlement, for instance. And on a level of soul, I would say there's not a sense or a vibration of entitlement. That vibration of entitlement really lands in this world of personality, because we feel we have a right to something, whether or not we've earned it, whether or not we're going to steward it, whether or not we're going to take care of it or pass it on or build it into a bigger, better something. And so the difference between the path of rights and the path of responsibility lies in the sense of this word also of integrity. And when we're deeply in our integrity, that which we are responsible for, we will steward with the utmost care and attention. And that which we feel we have a right to, we likely will expect someone else to care for. We will likely expect somebody else to do for us what we need to do for ourselves. And when that right that we feel entitled to doesn't come through in the way we want it or need it, then what follows often is blame. We blame someone else, or we blame politics, we blame the government, or we blame, this, that, or the other thing. We blame our parents, or we blame not having enough money, or we blame on and on and on and on. And then we get into this very dangerous spiral, downward spiral of feeling more entitled, blaming more when we're not getting what we feel we need or we deserve. And we can stop that wheel, that downward spiral, and begin to reverse it when we drop the whole conversation of having a right to something and take on the vibration of having a responsibility for that something. And when we have a responsibility, when we're in the utmost integrity, we will then begin to care for that responsibility. We will begin to what I call steward that responsibility in a good way. And then it will bring back to us that which we need, that which what we put in will receive back. And then it will grow. It will grow, it will blossom, evolve, and become quite abundant. So this distinction between rights and responsibilities, we're going to talk about in just a little bit. Before we get into stewarding our responsibilities, we need to understand this, this bit is related to character. What is our identity? I just want to read this. I'm going to have a PDF for everyone again tonight. And actually, let me just drop this in the chat. So if you want to pull it up right now, you can go through the process. You don't need to. I'm going to read it, but it will take a few minutes. But if you check in there, you'll be able to then put in your email and it will email the document to you. I want to start. Let me just start here. So the third section of the book that I'm working on that's soon to be released, there's 3 different steps, and I've been touching on them as we've been going along. But the third step of the 3 is called the Essential Protocol. It's a pathway of practical action. And Myron Golden, it starts with a quote. It says, "Truth," when you were talking about truth earlier, "truth is only unlocked to those who are willing to implement it." Truth is only unlocked to those who are willing to implement it. I love that quote. So here he's really referring to this sense of responsibility. To implement something, you have to be responsible for it. You have to take action. You need to do something. You're not waiting for somebody to do it for you. You don't have a right to truth. You have a responsibility to seek truth and then live truth. So it says, "Welcome to the Essential Protocol, the third set of practices that will raise your vibration toward the light." Those of you who are getting to know me, know I'm all about light. This is not to be an exhaustive set of protocol practices, but it is meant to be the essential journey we each must take to move toward our highest possible potential. Begin at level 1 and step by step, expand in your power as you explore the essence of each teaching and work the practice associated with it. Take your time, go deep, know thyself. So tonight we're going to talk about the first 2 steps really briefly in this indulgent integrity. The first step is your personal code. The second step is stewardship. If you do this, go deep and know yourself and take the steps in order, Your clarity will shine like a beacon of light for a suffering world in need of inspiration. You will be the light. You will be part of the solution. You will have done your part in saving yourself, and by extension, you will have done your part in saving the world. So the whole protocol goes from your personal code to stewardship to right relationship to defining your soul work to walking your talk, working your purpose, and finally being the light. So what we're going to work on tonight, and grab paper and pen if you don't have, because there's going to be a little bit of doing time tonight. In the first half of this evening, some writing time. In the second half of tonight, the work is going to be some meditation that I'm going to guide you through. So the first thing we're going to do tonight is briefly establish your personal code. And let me explain that. Your personal code is your identity in action, moment by moment. And character is certainly wrapped into our identity. Your personal code is a clear commitment you vow to live by. When you are acting outside of your personal code, you are acting outside of your integrity. So one of you said here, being authentically me, keeping your word, Bhavya said. So to live in integrity is essential. Let me go back. When you are acting outside of your personal code, outside of your integrity, you are acting outside of your integrity. To live in integrity is essential to living in your power. And this third section is all about power, personal power. The first step toward a powerful presence is to know, identify, and commit to your personal code. So that would be taking responsibility for that which you are setting forth for yourself. We can wrap that in character, in identity, in responsibility, by whatever name we want to wrap that in. So let's define then identity. In order to commit to our personal code, you must first establish your identity. Your identity is a fusion of these four aspects: the philosophy of life that you have adopted, and this might be passed down by your parents or something you learned in your religious or spiritual path, or a philosopher that you read, something a teacher taught, through your meditation, a message, a philosophy of life that was given to you on a soulful level. The second, your artistic expression, moment by moment. So your life as a work of art, not necessarily a painter, dancer, sculptor. Perhaps you're a computer programmer. Perhaps you cook beautiful food. You're a chef. But your artistic expression moment by moment. So your word, your creativity, how your life unfolds. The third aspect of your identity, how you allow God, spirit, energy to move with you and through you, is part of your personal identity. And lastly, a complex mixture of scientific phenomena, including DNA, environmental factors, and universal laws. Those not so defined or mutable by you. Some of those can't change. Can't change your DNA. In the future, some people may try. That's not really my thing. But we're going to be diving into the first three because these are all three that you can have an actual relationship with in the sense of transformation, building, changing, growing, evolving at any time, tonight, a year from now, any of these aspects of your identity, you can change, you can shift. They're mutable. So here's your first writing assignment. In 30 words or less, define these four identity aspects. Here's the first one. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes for each. I don't want you to think, just write. 30 words, it's not too many, couple sentences, 2-3 sentences. First one, define your philosophy of life in 30 words or less. Go. About 20 seconds. When you're done, just type in the chat, done or yep or good. Got it. Nice. Got one. Two. Remember, don't overthink. You can come back to it. I want you to go away and play with all of this. Done, done, done. Okay, great. All right, excellent. Reset. 3 minutes in 30 words or less. Define your artistic expression. How do you express yourself artistically moment by moment through your life? 30 words or less. Go. Right. Another minute if you need it, but when you're done, just type in the chat. Good. Got a few goods coming in, a few dones coming in. Yvonne is done. All right, great. All right. The third question, in 30 words or less, define your relationship with your higher power. However you define higher power, God, source, creator, great spirit, great mystery, whatever that means to you, energy. Define your relationship with your higher power. Go. One's done. Right, I've got a few goods, a few dones coming in. It's done. Nice. Okay. For tonight's purposes, we're going to skip the environmental DNA factors. Write down a few thoughts. Are there any aspects of these three identity categories that you'd like to change, transform, or expand upon? Any of those aspects that you've just listed in philosophy, artistic expression, and your relationship with your higher power that you would like to change, transform, or expand? Note those down. So now that we've explored your identity a little bit and you've taken a look at what you'd like to expand, but also change or transform, create your personal code. And you're going to write that again. After tonight, come back to this and go a little bit deeper, go a lot deeper. You can write a paragraph or a page or a sentence. But for tonight, we're just going to touch on creating your personal code because it's going to serve us a bit later. Let me reread establishing your personal code and then take what you've written about your identity and just write down a personal code for yourself. Your personal code is your identity in action, moment by moment. So action is key there. What actions are you going to take? Your personal code is a clear commitment you vow to live by. So what can you really commit to? When you are acting outside of your personal code, you are acting outside of your integrity. So what parts of this personal code it all requires a high degree of integrity. And if you can commit to that and follow that through, steward that, be responsible for it, it should be in your personal code. To live in integrity is essential to living in your power. So to bring the power of your presence forward into the world. This is bringing you and your code forward. The first step toward a powerful presence is to know, identify, and commit to your personal code. So your code is going to be a fusion of your philosophy of life, your artistic expression, and how you allow God, spirit, or energy to move through you and with you. And then, of course, you can include any of those environmental, DNA, traditional, cultural factors that you feel are just part of your heartbeat, part of who you are based on where you've come from ancestrally. So write your personal code. And if you have any questions, of course, feel free to put them in the chat and I'd be happy to answer them. All right. Just let me know if you're done, if you're good, you have some thoughts on paper. The video touched on a personal code that's extremely ancient. It's part of the vow of discipleship, ancient initiation. It's called Do No Harm. And the entire code is do no harm, simply, period, end of sentence, end of thought. Do no harm to self, to other, to future generations, to the past lineage to the expansion of light and love on all levels, on any level, to the evolution of this entire incredible universal experiment. Do no harm. An incredible part of a personal code if you choose to include it. It's very powerful. Right. I'm going to allow anyone who would like to unmute and share a few thoughts about that. You could read word for word or just a sense of something new that came through for you, but let's hear from all of you and what you've uncovered in that very brief exercise. Anyone like to come up and share?
I can.
Great.
Well, I think yours kind of is a little bit when you say do no harm. Mine is just be a nice person, be a good person, be a kind person. But essentially that means you do no harm.
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah. And could you give us a little bit of specificity? What does that mean to you specifically? What does being kind look like to you moment by moment through your artistic expression of kindness? What might that look like?
Let me see what I read. It's just like not getting caught up in the drama. Like it's a lot of it is, I don't want to say it as a negative, as a positive. So it's be with the person, be with the friend because of who they are. And kind of like when someone needs something, like kind of try to find that, like a good friend of mine who's very much struggling. Sometimes it's just about sending her an inspirational quote that day. And she says that's sometimes the difference of her getting out of bed, but it's the little things. It's those little things that we might not do because we think, oh, it's a little thing, but in actual fact, they're the big things. So I actually try to do those little things to make someone's life better.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. So that's the part we're diving into tonight, the indulgent part of integrity. So in your integrity, in your personal code, you're talking about kindness, but if you're going to indulge that kindness, you're going to send that extra little quote in the morning to a friend, or you're going to show up, you're going to listen maybe 30 minutes longer than what you had planned. You're going to indulge that which you already are. You're already going to be kind, right? You already have this as part of who you are. But how do we begin to indulge our integrity? And so this is what I'm hearing from you. That's beautiful. A beautiful way to indulge. Anyone else have a sense of how you can indulge your personal code or indulge your integrity based on what you've written? Michelle says, I reviewed my prior code and it still applies. Michelle, we would love to hear what your prior code was and how you could indulge it now that you have it. Our sacred choices allow us to do the actions. We can't unmute. Oh, no, really? Why does that happen sometimes? There. Now you should be able to. Sorry, Michelle.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Well, two questions there. So I guess I got a little lost on which was the last one you said because I was trying to unmute. But as far as how we do it, so for example, because a big part of mine really revolves around love and kindness, like Yvonne said. So in my daily sacred choices, I have a kind deed for one of my 12, well, I have a few more than 12 actually, but my daily ones. But I put mine on a paper with also weekly, bi-weekly, and monthly. So I have a lot of ones in there that are kind deeds to try to get in every month. to be more loving because I have to push myself. You know, like you said, you might not think to send the quote or some silly little thing that might have really made a difference.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, indulgence is a practice sometimes when it when it comes to these traits that it's easy to indulge our ego. It's sometimes more challenging to indulge the soul. Sometimes, not always, sometimes. Um, Trying to unmute Janelle. Can you unmute now?
Yeah. I was just gonna read what I came up with for my personal code. Haven't thought about how to indulge it. I've been listening to everybody else's and writing everybody else's down. But I wrote, I strive for continual growth toward living in, working from, and thinking from love and light. I spread this to others, to my joy and happiness, and to theirs. Or for my joy and happiness, I guess I should say. I don't know.
Beautiful. And now, so that's beautiful. Again, give me some specificity. What does that actually look like? How does that play out through your artistic expression? If someone didn't know you, you were walking down the street, they would see you do or say.
Definitely kindness. I'm always smiling at people. I always say hello. That's always been my thing. Kind. And I've been an elementary school teacher my whole life. And so that's like my number one rule in my classroom is my number one thing I want the kids to strive for is just to be kind to each other. But I find that I'm not kind to myself in my own thoughts. That's why I wrote continual growth toward living in, working from, and thinking from love and light, because I have really bad negative thought patterns that I've had from, I think, my childhood upbringing and even into adulthood. So I'm always working on those and trying to reach for that love and light and trying to reach for that higher power.
I've just done that self-hypnosis with Anna Berger. Just as a hint, that was like it really, really works.
Is it a quest?
From the moment I did that, it's like I have this total self-acceptance and I think I'm awesome. And I actually listen to people a lot better than I did before. So if you have issues from your childhood, that could really do things really quick. It's not cheap, but it works.
It's not a quest. It's
you can do 5-day quest and pay extra for $90 and you learn quite a bit.
So is it on Mindvalley or no?
No, it's on sometimes on Lifebook. She offers it too.
Okay.
On the you can look at it and Google it.
Okay, I'll look for it.
I don't recommend things that cost money, but that it really worked for me well.
Okay, thank you. I'm willing to. That would be a good investment.
And my childhood was pretty intense, so and I worked on that for decades and decades, and I improved a lot. But sometimes you need that extra push.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I'm totally joyous since I did that.
Just out of curiosity, Esther, did you do the 5-day one and you paid to be a VIP? Or do you mean that you did like the $5,000 one?
And then I splurged, and that was really painful. I paid some more afterwards for it at first, but I figured I was worth it, and it really worked. I did the whole recoding,
like the whole $5,000 package thing. I see.
I've never done that before, but it really worked. I'm so sorry. I mean, this is a different thing. I shouldn't mention that, but for anyone who has childhood issues to the extreme, that works well. Yeah. And I appreciate being here and learning, so I should add that. I really like that. I'm just saying, for not people who don't love themselves, that's an intense push to get out of it. And I'm not getting paid for this either.
You should. Thank you.
Well, no, I should. But I'm really, really much happier just because I accept myself now.
Beautiful.
Totally. And I thought I did before, but sometimes you're deep down inside, you're all screwed up, right? Or
Yeah.
knotted up, I should say, not screwed up,
Mhm.
right?
Beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. And Debbie said, yes, Janelle, I'm often challenged to treat myself as well as I treat others. This is a theme that comes through so often with my student clients, and I often speak about what we've all heard so many times, but never hurts to repeat again is, putting on your own oxygen mask first. You're on the airplane and the oxygen masks drop. And if you start helping others and the oxygen in the plane is running out and you don't have yours on, you're not going to be able to help others for very much longer. And pretty soon, a critical piece of that helping, power is no longer available to the world, to your family, to your friends. So your oxygen mask on first, and that absolutely includes kindness to the self, to the do no harm, the vow to do no harm. It must begin with the self. We are the earth. We are one another. We are this universe. We're not only an extension of it, but we are it. And if we're not caring and treating ourselves with the utmost care and respect that we would others in this planet, then we're doing just as much damage as if we were unkind to the planet or unkind to another human. So this sense of self-care, which absolutely, Esther, I agree with you, stems from self-love. Absolutely. Without self-love, there's self-care is.
Well, it's just that some people are taught when they're little to be superheroes and perfectionist, and you really love people. You have to be amazing to be an elementary school teacher and you really love those human creatures, right? But the thing is, when you're taught like that, it's really hard to, a lot of times, you feel guilty loving your own self. That's the issue. It's not that you couldn't, it's that weird thing that you just can't, it's not enough for you. So that's the one issue that's the hardest, I think.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us are so kind to everyone else and everything else, and we would feel horrible if we weren't, right? But we feel guilty being kind to ourselves, which it really is totally out of whack.
Well, it is, and it's the guilt piece, that which in cultures and traditions have separated us from the whole, that we are separate from source, that we are separate from one another, that we are separate from God. And so we somehow don't deserve this bountiful abundance that is available to all. It's spring here in the United States. I'm in Wisconsin, and the flowers are blooming and the blossoms, and I was out smelling the apple blossoms on the apple tree and just inhaling that incredible fragrance, because what a gift we've been given. And there's nothing, in my opinion, that pleases source or God or Mother Nature more than when we indulge in the gifts we've been given. I had a mango the other day. It was just juicy and dripping everywhere. It was so luscious and delicious. And to feel guilty if I had given my child that mango or those flowers to smell and he was just devouring them, I would want him to be happy and enjoy the mango and enjoy the aroma of the flower as his mom. And likewise, this Mother Earth, this nature that we live in, she wants us to indulge in a good way, in integrity, these gifts that we've been given. And these gifts that we've been given, laughing at how we got 4 inches of snow last night, Fawn said. That's outstanding. So, snow pants, go make a snowman, please. So fun. I get off topic. That was too fun. So this degree of indulgence takes us into this next step too, and I'm going to move forward so we have time for everything tonight. And it's about stewarding our responsibilities. So once we know what our personal code is and we recognize responsibilities that we have chosen and those that we've been given, and those that we've been given, some of them we don't have a choice about. You know, those of us who are women on the call, we've been given the responsibility of this woman's body. And this woman's body bleeds and it carries life in its womb, and it has breasts that produce milk when there's a baby and an infant. And it does all of these things that a male body doesn't do. And we are responsible for this female gift that we've been given, and how we take care of our menstruating years, how we take care of our menopausal years, how we take care of our blood, how we take care of our ability to create life. All of these things we didn't choose necessarily. Some believe we chose, in the other world before we came in, but in this life, we didn't necessarily choose. And yet we are still responsible for caring for ourselves. And likewise, men, caring for your seed, caring for all that makes you a man in a man's body, your testosterone, your hormones. So some responsibilities we've been given, some we've chosen. And I'm just going to read this, and that will bring us into our next part. We're going to talk about stewarding our responsibilities. Your responsibilities are given and self-chosen. It is a great privilege to carry responsibility. The privilege requires capacity, ability, resilience, perseverance, and grants the opportunity to grow exponentially. It gives great honor to Creator when you embody your responsibilities, when you receive them with gratitude and a commitment to steward them in a good way. Yourself, home, land, altar, business, assets, vehicles, recreational items, children, parents, friends, partner, garden, artwork are all responsibilities you have been given or you have chosen. If you are unable to steward with gratitude and impeccability all of your current responsibilities, simplify and let the ones go that are superfluous or currently out of your time, ability, resource to care for. If there are responsibilities that you care about but are struggling to steward impeccably, ask for help. Pay for help, trade for help, negotiate for help, compromise for help. However you can get help, get it. Esther gave a suggestion for one way to get some help. When your responsibilities are cared for with impeccability, you know that you have taken care of all the life aspects required of you. You can then be free. And we were talking in my introduction for tonight about freedom. Where does freedom come from? You can then be free from apathy, fault, blame, ignorance, denial, neglect, and abandonment. If you choose a responsibility, do not abandon it. If you are given a responsibility, do not abandon it. With your personal code as your foundation, that's your integrity, you move into stewardship and willingly work on behalf of the responsibilities that give life to the life. So take a moment and list, of course, not all of them, but list your current responsibilities. Pick, 3, 4, 5. Next, are there any responsibilities on the list, or even that you didn't get a chance to put on the list? Are there any responsibilities that you can eliminate in good conscience? Any responsibilities you have that you could eliminate in good conscience? The second step toward a powerful presence is to steward your responsibilities with impeccability. Impeccability is not perfectionism. Sometimes those two definitions are swapped or used. My definition of impeccability means that attention to detail with great care has been given. It may not be perfectly done. The end result may not be perfect, but you've given with great care attention to every detail. You've been impeccable. So to steward your responsibilities with impeccability then would mean with great care and in great detail, giving attention to those things which you are responsible for. And because impeccability requires time, attention, energy, if we have too many responsibilities, it's very challenging to steward them all with impeccability. And this is why it's important to simplify. This is why it's important to remove off of the plate that which is too much for us to really care for, really carry, really hold a container for. If we don't have the capacity to care with impeccability, we are likely going to be outside of our integrity, our own personal code, our own set of standards. Furthermore, it will be very hard to indulge those responsibilities that we can be impeccable for and with. And that indulgence we were talking about earlier is that little bit extra that when we indulge in a really yummy meal and dessert, maybe, with appetizers and, the feast, we generally have a little bit more than we would at a normal meal or than we think we should, perhaps. We indulge because it's a celebration or it's a feast or it's just that good, it's just that yummy. We might indulge in a really beautiful lovemaking with our partner. We might indulge in that beautiful blossom apple tree and take those extra few minutes to really receive the gift. And so we take this big leap. Where I'm going with this is taking this big, beautiful leap from that I have to do this, I have to do that, I have this responsibility, I have to go to work today, or I have to do the dishes, or I have to. I don't really want to, but I'm going to. It's a drain on our energy, on our resource, on our state of mind. And we begin to create a negative state of mind, and then we start blaming so-and-so because they didn't do it, and now we have to. And what I'm bridging is taking you from that space into the space of I get to do this. I get to go to work. I get to wash the dishes. I get to wash the dishes because I'm remembering this incredible meal that my family enjoyed, and the nourishment and the taste and the yumminess of this meal. I get to wash these dishes for me and for my family or for my friends who dined with me and we had such a wonderful time. I get to wash these dishes because I got to have community or family, love, conversation, good food with me, around me. And so with impeccability, we steward our kitchen, our home, our dishes. We take care of that duty, of that responsibility. So know, identify, and commit to your given and chosen responsibilities. What actions will you take to steward your responsibilities fully, full on, with love, with joy, with kindness? These great words of integrity that you all shared earlier. In this homework, it says, write your commitment here and read it daily. For right now, what I'd like you to do is choose one responsibility, and maybe choose one that you struggle with. I think would be the most powerful exercise for tonight. One responsibility, either chosen or given to you, that you would like to steward more fully, with more impeccability. And then once you've chosen that, write down a few ideas on how you can indulge the stewardship of that responsibility. What's the extra? You're going to do the dishes, but are you going to do the dishes with great music playing and singing and laughing and enjoy? Are you going to, whatever it is for you, how will you indulge that responsibility? And then just type in the chat a few words, either how you'll indulge it or what that responsibility is. Putting the words out into the world already creates a degree of accountability with the universe. And that's always a beautiful, powerful stance. And then we're going to segue into the second part of tonight's presentation, divine indifference. So let me just share. Michelle dropped in the chat, eating more healthily as I used to do. Indulge in this by eating and mindfully savoring delicious foods, and also savoring, enjoying the powerful feeling of times I choose not to eat. Indeed, indeed. And knowing that really healthy food is really alive. It's really, the healthiest food is living food, fruits, vegetables, a tomato right off of the vine, off of the plant, during harvest tastes so different than a tomato, even at the farmer's market, certainly different than a tomato in the middle of winter in the Midwest. It's just not the same. So, and it's because it has a livingness. There's a livingness still very vibrant in that food. And we can indulge in foods that are of a high living vibration. And it's easy to indulge in them because they just taste better. They're just yummier. Oh, thank you, Yvonne. On your cover page of the PDF, responsibilities is not spelled right. I will fix that. Thank you. Tara says, empowering my marriage in creating the legacy we want to leave. How? Dance more often and spending time brainstorming what legacy we want to create. Just to give a little context, Tara is in my couples workshop and my couples training. So for those of you who are not quite following her there, Tara, I love that. Thank you. Janelle says, I want to indulge my responsibilities to care for my house. How to indulge? While listening to music, while dancing. What else? Looking for ideas. Anyone have ideas? Michelle says, to me, that would be enjoying fluffing up your nest with beauty, love, safety, and joy. Yes. Yes. Did I miss any? Beautiful. And in these things, in our home, in our diet, in our marriage, when we begin to indulge these responsibilities, they give back 1,000-fold. The joy that comes, the beauty that comes, the lusciousness that comes, the fun that comes, the joy that comes. I'd like to say that the natural state of the soul is joy. A personality can be happy or unhappy. I go into more detail in that in my book, but the soul, its natural state, its natural vibration is that of joy. And so when we indulge our responsibilities, when we indulge our integrity, we are really tapping into this natural state of our soul, which is joy. And then that feeds our personality, and what we feel through our personality is happiness. And eventually what we want to move to is that our soul has mastered our personality. We've surrendered our personality to the care of our soul, and it's our soul that is guiding our decisions and our thoughts and our responsibilities. And then from that place, there's this constant stream of joyful vibration or joyful energy that moves through all things, because we're participating in the world from the seat of our soul rather than from the ego of our personality. It's unhappiness, it's happiness, it's desires, it's wants, it's needs, it's this, it's that. So good, beautiful. All right. I hope you have a sense of indulgent integrity from that work we've just done. We're going to move into divine indifference. Divine indifference is that state of soulfulness where that which is both internal and external, good or bad, challenging or not challenging, life-giving or life-threatening, we are indifferent. And we are indifferent on the level of the divine, meaning there's care, there's compassion, there's trust, there's love, but our mood, our personality, our personal code, our integrity is not swayed by external circumstances or personalities or behaviors. We are, in fact, indifferent to the, let's say, our partner, our spouse, our beloved, or best friend comes in furious, angry, frustrated with life, frustrated with the day. And we can be divinely indifferent to their mood, not because we don't care about what they're feeling, but because we're holding the presence of what Janelle earlier was calling love and light. We're holding the presence of a soulfulness, a sacredness, a divine vibration, so that what's happening in the world around us doesn't pull us out of our center, and we don't begin to identify with someone else's anger or someone else's fear or someone else's blame or complain or someone else's actions that creates climate change or political unrest. We can, what I call, hold steady in the light. And in order to hold steady in the light, there's this degree of divine indifference where we can find ourselves just holding presence or holding space, it's called, or holding a container for that which is, without our own vibration, our own personality, our own energy being affected by negativity or any other challenging aspect of the world outside of ourselves. And similarly, internally as well, with the negative internal talk that we were all sharing about earlier, we can also remain divinely indifferent to that internal negative talk, which is stemming from an egoic pattern, habit that may have come from childhood trauma, that may have come from an experience as an adult. It may have come from wherever it came. It became simply a habit. It's not who you are. That negative internal talk isn't who you are. It's just become a habit because you have imbued a lot of time and attention. You have, in fact, indulged that negative internal talk. And so now it's a habit. So the first thing to do is to stand in the presence of divine indifference to whether you have internal negative talk or not. Maybe it's negative internal talk or positive internal talk. Either way, you can be divinely indifferent so that you can then begin to move into the place where you can do the action of transformation if that's needed. And then you can begin the work of indulging that which you want to become, create, evolve, expand, which is your personal code, your integrity, your vibration, that soulful vibration. So I'm going to read a passage from A Treatise of Revolutionary Psychology by Samael Aun Weor, chapter 22. And the chapter is called Chatter. And then I'm going to give you, I'm going to guide you into a brief meditation based on what is revealed here. This is a great chapter. I think it's a great training, the meditation we're going to do on how to stand in that divine indifference. It is urgent, unpostponable, to observe our internal chatter and the precise place from which it comes. Unquestionably, wrong internal chatter as the causic consortium of many inharmonious and unpleasant psychic states in the present and also in the future. Plainly, in vain, insubstantial verbiage of ambiguous chatter, and in general, all harmful and absurd talk that manifests in the external world has its origin in wrong internal conversation. It is known that there exists in gnosis means knowledge or ancient wisdom, spiritual wisdom. It is known that there exists in gnosis the esoteric practice of internal silence. This is known to our disciples of Third Chamber. It is worthwhile to say clearly that internal silence must refer specifically to something very precise and defined. When the process of thought is intentionally exhausted during profound inner meditation, internal silence is achieved. But this is not what we want to explain in the present chapter. Neither is emptying the mind or making it blank in order to really achieve internal silence. What we are endeavoring to explain in these paragraphs is something different. Nor does the practice of internal silence to which we refer mean to impede something from entering the mind. Really, in the present instance, we are talking about a kind of internal silence which is very different. We are not dealing with something vague or general. What we want is to practice internal silence in relation to something which is already in the mind. A person, an event, our concern or another's, what we were told, what someone did, etc., but without touching upon it with our internal tongue, without intimate discourse. Learning to remain silent, not only with the external tongue, but also as well with the secret internal tongue is extraordinary, marvelous. Many are silent externally, but with their internal tongue, they skin their fellow men alive. Venomous and malevolent internal chatter produces inner confusion. If one observes the wrong internal chatter, one will see that it is composed of half-truths, or of truths which relate to each other more or less incorrectly, or of something to which there has been addition or omission. Unfortunately, our emotional life is founded exclusively on self-sympathy. To top off all this infamy, we only sympathize with ourselves, with our much beloved ego, and feel antipathy and even hatred for those who do not sympathize with us. We love ourselves very much. We are 100% narcissistic. This is irrefutable, undeniable. And this does also imply to that internal chatter about oneself. As long as we continue immersed in self-sympathy, any development of our being is made more than impossible. We need to learn to see another's point of view. It is urgent to learn how to place ourselves in the position of others. Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do you even so unto them, from Matthew 7:12. What truly counts in these studies is the manner in which people behave internally and invisibly with one another. Unfortunately, though we may be very courteous and even sincere, at times there is no doubt that invisibly and internally we treat one another and or ourselves very badly. People who are seemingly very generous drag their fellow man and themselves daily to their secret cave within themselves to do whatever they please with them. Annoyance, mockery, derision, etc. So now, to begin to learn how to attain that internal silence or that divine indifference, where you're fully with the person or the self or the circumstance, and yet able to remain indifferent or silent, not only with your word, but with your energy. You can hold a perfect emotional stillness, even if that circumstance you're dealing with is horrible on whatever level that might be. And we can certainly think of things like the world wars that are happening right now, the starvation that's happening in many areas of the world, the lack of pure, clean water, climate change, but also unrest in our own homes amongst our own family members, whether they live with us or not, and then all the way to that internal state of our own internal chatter about ourselves, be it self-hate or lack of confidence or etc. So take a moment now and close your eyes and choose something which is already in your mind, either right now in this moment or has been today or in the last week recently. It might be a person, an event, a concern of another's, something we were told, what someone did, what we did, something we've been telling ourselves about ourselves or about a world circumstance. Choose one thing. The more specific, precise you can be, the more effective this exercise will be. Now, once you have chosen, remain silent with it, without touching upon it with your internal tongue, without any intimate discourse, either by word or energy. For the next 3 minutes, try to remain completely still or silent energetically. And draw in a deep cleansing breath. And again, a long, deep cleansing breath. And how did you do with that? Were you able to hold steady and silent, but keep your mind also present and in focus on that aspect you were working with? Esther, unmute yourself. How did that go for you?
I didn't want to stay with that picture, that image, because it wasn't good energy I was thinking of. So I had a hard time because I didn't want to be with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. That's exactly the practice, however, because there's so much in life externally and internally that is negative, that we don't want to be part of. But how can we be present with it, but keep the whole energy just pure? Like it doesn't
Do we have to be present with it? Or
sometimes.
can't we do good energy and protect I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yes,
I just noticed that I just really didn't want to stay there.
yeah, it's a great question. There are times in life that we can't remove ourselves. There are even those thoughts in the mind, they're there. Even try to put them, we focus on something positive. They're there. And they agitate us, or we begin to identify with them, and it creates an emotional reactiveness, responsiveness, and then a mental, and then it gets into our physical body. And so one practice is to divert your attention elsewhere or remove yourself from the situation. If you were in the middle of, an abusive moment and someone was hurting you, by all means, take yourself out of the room if you can, if you can, right? But if we can practice cultivating a divine indifference, that thing for you that felt ugly or negative or hard to be around, can you learn to be indifferent to it so that it's no longer negative to you? You're not reading it energetically that way. It's just, it's what's the word? When something is absent of
Yeah, it shouldn't. I know, I get it. It shouldn't touch you
Mhm.
at
That's what
all.
this practice is.
But
Yeah,
but then if it's something you wouldn't want to be with, can you well,
yeah, because I know what you're getting at. The beautiful thing about the practice is that it's just you have a container of safety. That thing or that person, that circumstance isn't living real right now in your moment. It's you're projecting an image of it. So you can practice being in your divine indifference, in your silence. And it will begin to build in you an ability to tap into divine indifference and then an endurance so you can sustain it for those moments or those times when you can't not be in that negative situation, whatever it might be. Whenever you can be, yeah, please take yourself out of it. But we also, there's a phrase which I don't love. I think sometimes it's misrepresented, but spiritual bypassing. There are some things there are those demons that we need to confront head on, and we need to neutralize. That's the word I was looking for. We need to neutralize its effect on us. And so it's a challenging practice. It really is. But can we be in the midst of that monster and be calm, be still, be unaffected? Yeah, I see you. And you have no power to affect my emotional state. I don't resist you. I don't receive you. I'm indifferent to your presence. It's a challenge for sure. Yvonne,
well, I picked a bad thing.
Well, but maybe you picked a good thing so you could check this out and have this question, you know, and everyone could hear the answer. So it's perfect. I think it's perfect. Yvonne, what do you want
And
to say?
well, it's just really interesting that that's what Esther brought up, because my partner and I have different ways of dealing with things. And I'm like, you have to let it out of your body. And he feels energy, but there's certain triggers he has from the past. And he's like, well, don't bring it up. I don't want to think about it. And I'm like, yeah, but I have to deal with the explosion and you being out of commission from exhaustion for 2 days. So we have that constant battle when the triggers come up. And there's 2 in particular, but they're long before me. But to me, I keep saying, no, you have to get them out of the body. And the only way to do that is to dig really deep down to exactly kind of what you said. So we have a different view on that. And it's interesting because it's like Esther was kind of suggesting his viewpoint on it. But it's come up the last 2 days, which makes it even more interesting because I was trying to think of what to do a business on. And I realized, because I have my passion thing I do, but sometimes it's not necessarily our passion, but it's what we're really, really good at. And what I made it through, not unscathed at all, but a very high conflict divorce. And so when my friends, like the one I said earlier, I'll send her little, quotes and stuff, inspirations. When people are going through this, they always ask me, like, how the hell did you get through this? How the hell did you get through this? So I told him yesterday, this is going to be where I take my kind of coaching book kind of thing business. And it totally unexpected. It just popped up a few days ago. And he's like, but why would you want to go back to that negative energy? And it's exactly what you said. It just doesn't, I'm like, it just doesn't have the effect on me. And then he said, yeah, but when you talk to your sister who is going through a high conflict divorce, I can feel negative energy, but I'm convinced he's feeling hers through the phone. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm like, yeah, but I'm not getting triggered by mine. I'm just saying that's great for you to think that way, but it's not going to happen. That's not how it works. Right. And so I think it's super interesting how you said sometimes you have to bypass it or face it head on or just let it go through you. Because it's just something that came up in the last couple of days and we have a different viewpoint on it, my partner and I. But I know in my heart it's the right thing to do because mine is to get through a high conflict divorce. You get right with yourself in spirit and their behavior becomes irrelevant. As long as you're in the blame game, this game, you will never go through nicely and it will remain high conflict. So it's like, it's just super interesting that all of this has come up in the last 2 days.
I love when the universe corroborates teachings, like it's coming in all at the same time. But yeah,
I was going to say, but you love your partner, but I just got the gist of it. So if you're in a divorce, right?
No, this is the divorce. My partner's now is not the no contact high conflict. No, this one's here.
The image I had in front of me was really something bad. I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
I don't love. I mean, it's not lovable.
But you picked it.
I picked it because I knew it would be a challenge.
Yeah. Well, and Esther too, you use the word it's not lovable. So, this exercise is really about neutralization though. It's about neutralizing. We don't have to swing so far that there's condoning or acceptance of loving of something that is completely evil and heinous. It's that we learn to neutralize the effect of others or ourselves or circumstances on us, because when it affects us or triggers us, using that word, we are no longer able to hold steady in our light. We're no longer able to maintain the presence of stillness.
I got it. I have to look at the demon and say it doesn't touch me.
Yeah.
And it's not a demon, but that's just
sure.
I didn't imagine a demon. I'm just saying that's a symbolic way of saying it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the more things that can rattle us, the more demons that really get us going, the less control we have over our own moment by moment. And so when I was talking about freedom, when I refer to freedom in the introduction, this exercise gives us freedom. Because in that moment, that demon comes to you, we'll just call it a demon, that demon comes, you don't want to deal with it, then you need to go elsewhere or redirect. You are not free in that moment to just stay presently, neutrally, blissfully, quietly, silently where you are. You're not free. That demon has control over your emotions. You are not able just to simply be present. Yeah. And we all have those things. We all have them. We all get triggered by something or someone, past, present, or even future. Anxiety and fear of the future is also a circumstance which we can learn to be divinely indifferent, and it will reduce anxiety. Janelle said, very helpful. Thank you. A great practice that I see can be really helpful for our own peace. Yeah, this is exactly for if peace is part of your personal code, if peace is something that you want to cultivate, internal and external. Last month, I was talking about the inner war. 2 months ago, our internal peace or lack thereof is reflected in the external peace or lack thereof, whether that's in our home or on the global political stage. These wars are created by a conglomeration of many humans. Our families and the unrest, even in a coupleship, is an extension of our internal peace or lack thereof. And so in the second step in marriage, why I love working with couples is because once we master ourselves, just wait, because your partner is going to come and going to trigger every challenge, emotional, intellectual, physical challenge that you have. It's the next test. It's the next teaching when we are in coupleship. And so then we begin to learn how to master ourselves in the presence of the one who can really trigger us more than anybody else. And then once we've mastered relationship, then we can go out into the world and start to find ourselves holding steady, even in something as heinous as, if we were in Syria or Gaza or Israel or in any of the countries that have been hit by natural disasters, the fires in Canada and, the floods and, around the world, in any circumstance, can we hold steady in that divine indifference? Divine, though, because there's still compassion and there's still care. It isn't that we don't care, so we're indifferent. And that's the distinction in the divine part of the indifference. We're holding steady in our love and in our light and in our power. But that the power is ours. The power isn't outside of ourselves. That power, the powers that be, the demons, are not affecting our inner peace, our inner steadiness, which is where we hold our integrity from, that place of inner clarity, that place of inner stillness. So this is why I've wrapped these two character qualities together tonight for you all in this presentation, because they really, they complement, they're companion, they fuse, they interrelate, indulgent in integrity and divine indifference. So hopefully our time has come to an end. I'm a little bit over, and I would just love to invite you all. I'm going to put this link to get the PDF again back in for those of you who didn't catch it earlier. Then you don't have to go searching for it. In there. If you would like a copy of that, I'm also going to type in the book. Oops, I'm sorry, that was a direct message to Yvonne. Let me get that to everybody. And then I just want to put, if you enjoyed that reading, it might be spelled wrong, I'm typing fast. there's that title and that author. Michelle says, thank you for lovely evening. Michelle, thank you so much for coming. It's always lovely to have you here. You know where to find me on that to get the PDF. If you want to also contact me in other ways, you can just mark off email, or you want to work with me privately or in some of my workshops. Any of those things, they're choices, but you can just choose to get the downloadable and that's all you'll get. But if you want to contact me, do so through Lifebook or through that form that I put up the link. Anyone have a final question or thought that they would like to share before we officially end?
Thank you very much, Diana. And is it Diane or Diana?
Well, in the States, it's Diana. You can just call me Diana.
Because you have that accent on
It's
the-
French Canadian. My mom had a friend who was French Canadian, so it's
I
Diana.
can do that. I'm in a French community.
You can call me Diana if you want. In the States, nobody does.
Yeah, do appreciate. And I'm sorry I went into all that detail earlier about other stuff, but
All good. All good.
But
If it's useful to someone,
it just
that's
seemed
beautiful.
like it's something different, right? So yeah.
Sure. Hey, all the tools at our disposal. Please, may we all help and guide one another in wisdom.
But
and
thank you so much.
You're
Well,
welcome.
one of the best things I found to deal with my ex who has issues was to just, and it's funny because my partner now is the one who had suggested it is before he knew the situation, but he said, you just send them love because love kind of conquers all. So you just send them love, even privately or through your mind or whatever. You just send them love, and then you just put up a boundary. And I found my boundaries weren't, they weren't quite big enough. So I went from like a skin suit to a big bubble, and it's amazing the difference. And the other thing is for the person who triggers you is I knew his trauma occurred when he was about 9 or 10. So I always just reached out to him like he was a little 9 or 10-year-old boy, because there's a different rationale and all of that, because hurt people. So it's like, well, when were they kind of messed up? Because a lot of times that's where their emotional intelligence halts. So I'm not arguing with a 60-year-old, I'm arguing with a 9-year-old. And it is amazing the difference in how we talk to a 9-year-old versus a harmful 60-year-old. And it made so much difference. And then just solid boundary.
Yeah. And with this practice that we did, just to bring that back around, as you practice and you learn to hold steady in that divine indifference, the love will flow quite naturally. It's like peeling an onion. First, you have to get through your reactiveness and you're wanting to run and get away from it and then do this, or fix that, or fix them, or, if you can still all of that, if all of that is still, the love and the light flows naturally, because that's who we are. That's what's moving through us organically, is love and light. And then it looks like kindness, or it looks like service, or it looks like stewardship. It takes on these different aspects. But first we must get very still and very clear and very clean. If we try to force that love when we're still feeling hurt or angry or damaged in any way, we're forcing something, and we're not really being fully true to ourselves. So in my opinion, that first step is that stillness, is that divine indifference. And then let source move that love through you so effortlessly, and there'll be no resentment, no regret, no force, it won't drain your energy. Sometimes if we're not in that quiet stillness, it takes a lot of our own energy to send loving energy when we're still angry, hurt, resentful, scared. If we need to set up a lot of boundaries, also, Yvonne, there's still a lot of energy required. If we need no boundaries, that doesn't mean let them come into your world, but if those internal boundaries are just clear, the love can just flow, and you're no longer attracting that energy or bringing yourself into that negative energy any longer.
And I think that's why I have to do it as him as a child.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it to the end. And I am clear and fine because I have no contact, but but it's okay because it's not a struggle anymore. But I probably still couldn't do that to the adult. The adult, it's just to the child. It's like
So
he got that way because of something when he was a child. So I just cleared the child,
yeah.
like send the love to the child.
Well, can I offer a thought as a coach?
Absolutely.
So perhaps then your next step in the practice is to present him in his grown-up self, not as a child, so that you can clear and still those energies. And maybe what your husband now is feeling when he says there's still something there for you, maybe that's what he's feeling, that you're still not able to be very still with the grown-up aspect of the abuser. You can be still with the child, knowing where it came from, but in his adult form, there's something still unsettled there for you. So that might just be the next evolution of your healing.
Yeah, because I think I'm very neutral. Like if I accidentally run into him, because he's not that far away. I think I've run into him once in 5 years.
Yeah.
But it didn't really trigger anything. But I think because I knew it was just a blip and I just kept going.
Yeah. Yeah. So
but I never thought about that, to really sit in the stillness with him as an adult.
Mhm.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Because even the kids have done no contact. So
Check it
through
out.
their own choice. Yeah, they're adult. My kids are adults. So
Right.
So yeah, that's super interesting to see. And that's something I'll probably, as I go through the material for my new project, I will be able to step into that one. I'll know more.
Right. I love it. Beautiful. Okay. So Michelle said, thanks again so much for the beautiful evening. She's got to leave. It is getting late. Let me honor the time of everyone and just thank you so much for coming. I love doing this with you all every month. I'll be back next month for spiritual life category. And I'll get that event up on Lifebook as soon as it's planned. But for now, my love to you, my light to you. Thank you for coming. It's such a joy, such a pleasure. And reach out to me if you have any questions. Feel free, reach out. Aho, Viracocha. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night. You're welcome.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome.